Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavade Paschatya Hadeshatarine Jayashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hey Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parabrajacharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Okay. Oh, glasses. My eyes. Hare Krishna. So, here we got it. Oh, here's the, shall I give you the title, Prabhu?
Yes, the title would be good.
The title is good. It's in quotation marks because it's a quote by Srila Prabhupada. He says, Prema, you have got. Srila Prabhupada says, Prema, you have got, in quotation marks. Okay. So, let's see. Srila Prabhupada makes this point. We'll start with this point. I'm collecting so many verses. You see, I have a very strong feeling about what this Krishna consciousness is, this process. Even though I'm a neophyte devotee, I understand this process, but if I put some of these ideas in front of my peers, my godbrothers, etc., oh, they don't understand in the same way. So therefore I have to research Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada's talks, again and very thoroughly take out these different quotes to make my point. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he said to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 5, here Srila Prabhupada says, in the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter. Okay, so Sankhya is this process of very profound meditation, discriminating between spirit and matter within oneself. No one can do that in this day and age. We have to say that there are 25 different elements, material elements in the body. I'm not this. Oh, and here's the next layer, the next quality. I'm not that, I'm not that. So many. So the first process of Sankhya, Srila Prabhupada writes, one has to become detached from matter. You can't begin this process unless one is already in a liberated state. And in the devotional yoga process, the devotional yoga process is another process. We have the Sankhya, which is very analytical, introspective. It's a yoga process, but we follow the devotional process. The conclusion of all this Sankhya is that I must become a devotee. But I read in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya a preface that Lord Chaitanya, just yesterday, begins from this liberated state, begins from the understanding that I'm not material. The devotional process begins on the basis, I'm a spirit soul, what is my business in relation? So Srila Prabhupada says, in the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter. And in the devotional yoga process, one has to do what? Become attached himself. One has to attach himself to the work of Krishna. So one is to establish detachment first, but our business is to attach immediately. So, and that attachment to Krishna automatically makes us detached. So, so we don't have to do this whole rigorous business. Factually, Srila Prabhupada continues, both processes are the same, although superficially one process appears to involve detachment and the other appears to involve attachment. Detachment from matter, attachment to Krishna. However, Srila Prabhupada continues, detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. one and the same, and one who can see this sees things as they are. Bhagavad Gita purport. So the question arises, well, how do we become detached? How do we become detached from matter? So Srila Prabhupada in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita tells us, as we've already hinted, chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, verse 39, purport, that one who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only. Now this is Srila Prabhupada's way of using English. For the satisfaction of the Lord only means who only works for the satisfaction of the Lord. Everything is done for Krishna's pleasure. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only finds himself always, what? In transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all the transcendental qualities automatically by the grace of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 2, verse 39. So this is how, that in the way that a detachment from matter, an attachment to Krishna, there's no difference, because by doing everything, what is attachment to Krishna? Attachment to Krishna is only through bhakti. There's no other way. All the other forms of yoga, they come to the conclusion that they have to begin bhakti. But our whole process begins at bhakti. That's why it's so different from any other yogic process. So we have to satisfy Krishna. And then we become detached from matter, from Maya. So how do we satisfy Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 2, in the purport, the Lord says, Srila Prabhupada's quoting Krishna. We're quoting Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada, he's quoting Krishna. The Lord says, because Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna is always talking to him. I have one quote like that. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. This is, he is ready, he, Krishna, is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering. Never mind what. He's thinking, the one person can offer $1 million, one person can offer 1,000 acres of land, and what does Krishna say? He says, one can offer me a leaf, a fruit, a little water, a flower. So because what is Krishna interested in? Does he need $1 million? Krishna, does he need 1,000 or 10,000 or acres of land? Does he need the whole planet? He has millions of planets. They're all his already. So what? By such transcendental engagement, here it is. Even a leaf, Srila Prabhupada writes, Bhagavad Gita 9:2. Even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water will be accepted. How? If offered with love. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. So this is all Krishna's interested in. He only wants our heart. So if we have that 10 million or 10 billion or $10 trillion, we can give that. And if we have absolutely nothing, and we can only offer Krishna a leaf or some water. If it's done with love, it means the same thing to Krishna. It means more to Krishna because he wants our love. Here's another one from chapter 2, that same verse 39. Quote, "The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service, how, out of transcendental love, does he award the pure knowledge of devotion and love." So what is pure knowledge of devotion and love? What is this knowledge? And Krishna explains in the 9th chapter, Raja Vidya Raja Goyam. Shushukam kartam avyayam. It's so joyfully performed. When a person actually has a feeling of love for Krishna in their heart, they become so joyful. So Srila Prabhupada says, when one is engaged out of love, he is awarded the knowledge of devotion and love, which is pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam, direct perception of the self by realization. And we experience our real nature as we practice in our real nature, as we practice with love. So, reviewing a little bit, the secret of detachment is that by working for Krishna's satisfaction with a heartfelt feeling, one, quote, finds himself always in transcendental bliss, unquote. This is the secret of detachment. And how does our work satisfy Krishna to get this detachment? Quote, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water will be accepted if offered with love. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. So, now we have a problem. Now we have a real problem. Because if I talk to my godbrothers, I talk to my peers, I talk to other people who are practicing, they say, we have no love. And they'll base it on Srila Prabhupada's statements. Here, if we can cultivate feelings of love for Krishna, spiritual knowledge becomes realized. Our material desires, they evaporate. However, many of our peers hold a very strong conviction. What's that conviction? That there is no love in the material world. They will insist, we have no love. The only way to acquire spiritual love is by what? By being obedient to Srila Prabhupada. And when he's pleased, then we'll be blessed with the ability to love Krishna. Love will be added to us from outside. We don't have it. It's injected into us, or it's transferred into us, or it's blessed or bestowed upon us. Love will be added to us from outside. How? As a benediction, as a blessing. When we're pleased, Srila Prabhupada, we have to what? We have to earn. E-A-R-N. We have to earn the ability to love. Because there's no love, we have no love, we have to earn it, okay? So when Srila Prabhupada, they say, is pleased with our service, he'll bless us with the ability to love. Now, here are some quotes to back up this position that we have no love. Here are some quotes. Quote, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 14th chapter, verse number 19, from the purport. Quote, in the material world there is no question of love. No, there's no question of love in the material world, is Srila Prabhupada saying. So how can my God brothers be wrong? Here's another quote. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, this time from the 30th chapter, 30, text number 8. Quote, actually, in the material world, what? There is no love. No love. Both the woman and the man are interested in their sense gratification, unquote. There are many similar statements that appear to be in total opposition, however, to this understanding. So you can see there are many quotes that where Srila Prabhupada tells us again and again, there's no love in this material world, there's no love, there's no love, there's no love. So we think, how can we love Krishna? We have no love. It has to be bestowed upon us for being a good boy, good girl. So, but then Srila Prabhupada has some different quotes, okay? Here's from the preface of Nectar of Devotion. Quote, in the primary stage, meaning when one is a little boy or a little girl, in the primary stage, a child loves his parents. Then his brothers and sisters, and as he daily grows, he begins to love his family, then society, community, country, nation, or even the whole human society. He said, this is love. He says, this love. He begins to love all of these. So in other words, we have quotes coming from two sides. And now we go to Nectar of Instruction. How do we reconcile all this? We're going to deal with that. That there is no love, but there is love. But people, they want to take quotes on one side. It enables them to come to a certain understanding of the process of Krishna consciousness. Because if we have no love, then we have to do everything like a machine, mechanically, and get a reward. We'll be able to love. So he says, Srila Prabhupada said, the Nectar of Instruction, text number 4 in the purport. Pure love for Krishna. This is a heavy one, and I have copied this one out, and Yashodananda sent out a bulk mailing, what they call those things, statements on the WhatsApp, a text message. That's right. This morning I was looking for this quote, and then I opened the telephone, and Yashodananda is giving this quote. I'll come back to it later. But here, Srila Prabhupada is commenting on this quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. Pure love for Krishna, okay? He's saying in the material world there's no love. So here Srila Prabhupada says, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source, unquote. Srila Prabhupada is saying that it's eternally established, part of what we are. And we don't gain it from nobody puts it into our heart. Nobody injects it upon us. Nobody bestows it upon us. Nobody blesses us with it. It is not something to be gained from another source, unquote. Nectar of Instruction, text number 4, purport. It's eternally established. Pure love of Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of living entities. So, okay, it can be dormant. It has to be awakened. But we already have it. It's not, and what is that awakening process? We're going to talk about that. But we already have love for Krishna now. So we shouldn't think that I have no love. We should think, how can I awaken this love? Hey, so similarly, in a lecture in Hyderabad, 1972, Srila Prabhupada is giving a class on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 22. This was in 1972, November 26, 1972. So Srila Prabhupada says, something has come up on my screen. I don't know how to, it's not interfering with the recording. Okay, there.
No, it's not.
Okay, so Srila Prabhupada says, this is in Hyderabad, 1972. Check this out. Prema, quote, Prema is not you have to get it outside. It is already there. This is Srila Prabhupada's lecture. It is not purchased, then Srila Prabhupada's being sarcastic. It is not purchased from some shopkeeper. You don't go to the store and buy love. No, it is already there. It is not that by external means we are getting Krishna Prema. It is already there, unquote. Srila Prabhupada. So on the one hand, in this world there is no love, material world, but it's not coming from an outside source, it's already there. So, similarly, in the same lecture, Srila Prabhupada explains, quote, Prema is already there. You are simply misusing it. And therefore, our affection for others, etc., to take pleasure in their happiness. We try to do things, something for our children, something for our husband, wife, something for the community, something for our race, or even something for our nation. People are giving their lives for their nation. They want to contribute. So Prema is already there. Quote, you are simply misusing. Therefore you're not happy. Prema you have got, but you're misusing it. But if you take Krishna's word, that give your Prema to me, this is the beginning. I think of my son, I think of my child, I think of my wife. Because, why? Because there is Prema. So if you think of Krishna with loving feeling, then you will increase your Prema for Krishna. This is the process, unquote. You already have the ability to love. You got to use it properly. If you think that we have no love, then I have to become a robot and a robot can chant 16 rounds very nicely. 100 rounds, 1,000 rounds. But there's no love, you're never going to realize Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada says, if you think of Krishna with this loving feeling, then you will increase. It will continue to expand in your heart. It's a waking up process. Then you will increase your prema for Krishna. And this is the process, unquote. Okay, so the question arises, what is this desire for sense gratification that we have? What is it? If love of Krishna is eternally established in my heart, in your heart, in our hearts, why do we desire so many other things? So in 337, Srila Prabhupada explains, this is science of Krishna consciousness. The question arises, if love is in my heart, where does this desire for everything else, that why should I serve Krishna? I'm serving my senses. It's very very nice process. So what is this desire for sense gratification? So Srila Prabhupada, where does it come from? When Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, verse 37 purport, okay? When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, the spirit becomes in touch with matter, right? Our body, our mind, subtle. When the living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust in association with the mode of passion. Or, in other words, Srila Prabhupada continues, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust. 337 purport, Bhagavad Gita. So, let's try and understand. In other words, when we shine a clear light through a clear lens, it comes out white light, white. But when we shine the same light through a red lens, the same white light, it comes out as a red beam of light. Huh? The same light. It acquires the quality of the medium through which it is projected. So when we come in contact with the material creation, our eternal love for Krishna, it acquires the qualities of the mode of passion. It's that love of Krishna being expressed in that our love of Krishna acquires the quality of lust. And Srila Krishna explains that this lust quality, because of the mode of passion, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. The intelligence is our orientation in life. He says this lust captures the intelligence. We acquire the conviction that the only way to be happy is to satisfy my senses, my false sense of self. That'll make me really happy. So this is the influence of the mode of passion. Our love for Krishna, it acquires the quality of lust. And the quality of love of Krishna, it isn't lost, it's contaminated with material influence. So what does Srila Prabhupada say? It has to be purified. You have to clean it up. But it's the same stuff, we already have it. So, and there's a process how to clean it. So this purification begins with elevating ourselves to the mode of goodness, from the modes of passion and ignorance, to the mode of good. In the mode of goodness, what happens? Instead of having a me first mentality in goodness, the serving inclination becomes awakened. It's a part of the mode of goodness. One wants to, do good works for the society, for the poor, for the hungry, for those who need clothes, open a hospital, open an education, university. He takes pleasure in serving others instead, but it's still material. So then, in the mode of goodness, under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, this serving mood becomes directed. How? toward Krishna. Same serving mood, but now toward our real object, our affection. We become we become the proverbial, so to speak, the proverbial leaf now that's watering the root of the tree. We're part of Krishna, so when we serve Krishna with love, it comes back to us immediately, just like the leaf on the tree is watering the root, gets the water. So then that's for the bliss that we all want. That's what we're hankering for. And when we get it, this is called realization. And we begin to realize loving reciprocation with the Absolute. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter, 10th text, Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport how we got to work with these modes of nature, okay? Quote, competition between the three modes of material nature, it's always going on. Sometimes we're passionate, sometimes we have a good impulse, sometimes we're in lamentation and despair, a mode of ignorance. So he says, this competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness, he has to transcend these three modes. If one wants, he can develop. How? By practice. By practice, he can develop the mode of goodness, and in this way, defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And then, by transcending the mode of goodness, by taking that serving mood and transferring it to Krishna, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can, what? Understand the science of God. What does it mean to understand the science of God? It means to have a direct perception that it works. Otherwise, what is good is our theoretical understanding. But if we get in the pure goodness state, Vasudeva, we can understand. Now we can understand the science of God. We can realize it. So, as we have already read in purport to Bhagavad Gita 2, chapters 2, verse 39, that one who works for the satisfaction of the Lord, we want to please Him, like you want to please your friend, like you want to please your godbrother, you want to please your children, you want them to be happy. One who that's working for their satisfaction. One who works for this, not officially, but really, with that feeling in your heart, that's called bhakti yoga. It's not rules yoga. It's not an international society for rules and regulations. It's an international society for this bhakti consciousness. It's called Krishna consciousness, called bhakti consciousness. So one who does this, who works for this, he finds himself always in transcendental bliss. And he achieves all transcendental qualities automatically, unquote. So how do we reconcile? On the one hand, there's no love in the material world. On the other hand, it's eternally part of what we are. and we can't lose it, but it becomes contaminated. And so how do we have this love? Prema you have got. So he said, in his preface of the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada speaks of the loving feelings that we have for our family and friends, for our society, for our nation, and the genuine feelings of pleasure that we derive when we're rendering service to them. Quote, every service has some attractive feature. something that makes us want to do it, in other words, which drives the servitor progressively on and on. People, we take care of our family, our society, our nation, year after year. It's not something we want to do it. It has this attractive. What is this attractive feature? Every one of us within this world is perpetually engaged in some sort of service, and the impetus for such service, what makes us do it? It's the pleasure we derive from it, unquote. Nectar of Devotion. Preface. These prefaces and introductions, I study them. They're beautiful. So in the same preface, Srila Prabhupada writes, okay, an anthropologist works in the same way for the love of the greater family. It gives him pleasure. And a nationalist, Srila Prabhupada continued, for the cause of his country and his countrymen. It makes them feel good. In other words, Srila Prabhupada acknowledges the love that we have in our hearts. He said, go back to November 1972 lecture on Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse 25. The loving propensity, it is already, the loving propensity's there already. But the loving propensity that we should, that should be, for Krishna, we have transferred the loving propensity to Maya. We have got love, but we're trying to love something which is not Krishna. So again, in Hyderabad lecture, November 26, 1972, on Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse 22, Srila Prabhupada elaborates. Same point. Everyone has prema, love. This propensity to love others, that prema, that love is originally for Krishna. But because we are illusion, that prema is being applied or used for so many maya. So many maya. Prema I have got. That's the name of this lecture. But Srila Prabhupada continues. Prema I have got. I have got my love. That is a fact. But I do not know where to repose that love. That is my misfortune. Therefore, Krishna said, you have got prema, you apply it to me. Then you'll be benefit. Prema is already there. You are simply misusing it. Therefore, you are not happy. Prema you have got. He keeps saying. Why does Srila Prabhupada keep saying this? Because we have this misconception that we don't have it. It has to be given to us. If we become good robots. So Srila Prabhupada says, Prema, doing sadhana, prema you have got, but you're misusing. But if you take Krishna's word, that give your prema to me, Krishna, then you will increase your prema for Krishna. In other words, it's sleeping within us, but when we use it properly, it starts to awake incrementally. It expands, it expands, it expands. But so you need love to get love. You want to gamble, you go to the casino. The goal is to make money. If you go to the table to gamble and you have to bring money to the table to make money. Otherwise you can't play. If you want to start a business, you need startup capital. What's the goal of the business? To make money. You need money to make money. You need love to make love. So on the one hand, we have so many statements from Srila Prabhupada in which he declares that there is no love in the material world, but on the other hand, Srila Prabhupada insists that we already have this love within our heart, and that it is the eternal nature of what we are, the spirit soul, and that the loving capacity doesn't have to be added to us from an external source as a blessing. There's something we have to earn. You make point, you get enough points, just like Shishupala. He did enough offenses to Krishna at the Rajasuya sacrifice, talking, railing against Krishna, insulting Krishna, and when he got to the right number of offenses, Krishna took out his Sudarshan chakra and cut off his head. He was waiting he promised Shishupal's mother that he will let Shishupal make 100 offenses before he won't hurt him. So he said when he reached the right number, then he got his head cut off. So we're thinking that when I earn enough points doing devotional service, then I'll get a blessing. It'll be added to me because I don't have it. So, when Srila Prabhupada is saying that there's no love in the material world, he's saying that in the material concept of life, that the objects of our affection are illusory. Not that we have no affection, but the objects of our affection are illusory. The objects of our love are material designations that cannot give us eternal reciprocation of love, that our hearts actually desire. We're spirit souls. We desire to have that reciprocation of love from Krishna at every step in our material sojourn, in our material journey. We're hankering, but we're trying to get it from aiming our affection, focusing on things that cannot reciprocate with us, not the way we need it, not giving us some. So, and therefore, as Srila Prabhupada states in his introduction to teaching of Lord Chaitanya, quote, if we want real transcendental love, then we have to transfer. We have to transfer our love. Not we have to get it new. Not it has to be given to us in a spoon or an injection or something. We have to transfer our love, the love we already have, to the supreme lovable object, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This, if we want real love, I'll read it again. If we want real transcendental love, then we have to transfer our love to the Supreme Lovable Object, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the whole basic principle of Krishna consciousness. This is the whole Krishna consciousness, that it starts from understanding that and doing it. This is from the introduction to teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So how long does it take? Srila Prabhupada tells us, quote, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 72, purport. One, quote, one can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Unquote. We have this the same capacity. We have affection for our family, for our whatever, for our friends. We should start to find Krishna is real. Srila Prabhupada is real. We have to believe it and begin. It's transcendental. Time and space are irrelevant. Srila Prabhupada is the external manifestation of Krishna in our heart. He can feel all of us. As much, in one letter, Srila Prabhupada, as much you're thinking of me always, I'm always thinking of you. We all have that. So then, in a lecture in Hamburg, 1969, September 8th. I joined in 68, that's right, 1968. Here in 1969, on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 14, Srila Prabhupada talks, okay? Lecture. Quote, "It does not require many, many births. It requires little intelligence to take this Krishna consciousness seriously. Your problems are solved. So it requires relative intelligence. One can become immediately Krishna conscious within a second, and one cannot become Krishna conscious after many, many births." I'll read that sentence again. One can become immediately Krishna conscious within a second, and the other possibility, one cannot become Krishna conscious after many, many births. So it is relative. So it is, if you have got sufficient intelligence, you can accept it immediately. If there is less intelligence, then it will take time. You cannot say, now he's talking about people who think that I have to earn points. It's going to take time. Doing, getting a good report card. He says, you cannot say that, oh, it will be possible after so many years. That cannot be said. There is no such formula that one can be Krishna conscious after so many years. Because we're thinking like that. We got to get lots of points. No, there is no such formula. One cannot become Krishna conscious even millions after. That's Srila Prabhupada's language. One cannot become... What is he saying? That if you're thinking it's about doing, and getting points by doing so much things, he says, one cannot become Krishna even millions after, meaning after millions of years doing in that mentality. Then he goes back. One can become within a second Krishna conscious. So the choice is yours. In all the case, the choice is yours. If you know the value, instantly you accept it. If you do not know the value, then you take time. But after all, the choice is depending on you to accept it or not accept it. It is your choice. Hamburg, 1969, September the 8th. So, I got these things. I got a few more quotes this morning. Here's the process. Here's the translation. I'm almost finished now. Every learned man, translation, okay? This is Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 20th verse. Not the purport, not yet. Here's the verse. Every learned man knows. We're all learned men, right? Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door to liberation. All the attachment for family, friendship, and love that we already have, we should feel like that towards Srila Prabhupada. That's what's being said. We have to love Srila Prabhupada, and not that he's giving us a list of things to do, and one day we'll earn enough points. Why do we have? Because when we share our love with him, he shares his love with us. We start to feel his presence. And there's a whole other lecture, a whole other subject. It's called Subjective Instruction, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, first chapter, verse 47. There's two kinds of instruction from the spiritual master. One of them is all objective, do this, do that, do this, do that, don't do. And the other one is how to feel. It's called subjective instruction. And that subjective instruction, Srila Prabhupada explains, can only come from someone who already has love of Krishna. He can share his heart with us. And that is the process. There's no other way to get this love. So in the purport to this verse, here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause for bondage in conditional life. And the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. This attachment that we have for friends and family and society and whatnot, attachment cannot be killed. It has simply to be transferred. This is the purport. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and this attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. It's the same thing, only one is illusory affection, and this is the real affection. A living entity by constitution has the propensity to be attached to something. Srila Prabhupada, our attachment for material things, it perpetuates our conditional state, but the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. So, this is the last thing I'm going to... Oh, here's the other one. Here's the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 2, chapter 22, Madhya Lila. Chapter 22, text 107. Okay? I love this. Catch it. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chite Karye Udoy. You'll hear that. You look that up. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. Srila Prabhupada quotes it again and again. What is the translation? Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the heart of all living entities. Continue. It is not something to be gained from another source. He doesn't inject it into us with a syringe. Continue. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, the living entity naturally awakens. End of. So how to chant under his guidance, It says the process is teachings of Lord Chaitanya. The process is that we hear the mantra, chapter 18, from the realized soul, and if we chant with the same feeling, that becomes the worship of the holy name. He's teaching us how to love, but we have to have a connection with him. We have to be practicing under his guidance, in his association. He's sharing the love of Krishna with us. So if we have no capacity to love, as everybody is thinking around me, they tell me that over and over, there are two erroneous conclusions, and this is the last few minutes. If we have no capacity to love, there are two erroneous conclusions. The first one is, because we have no ability to love, therefore we can only engage in our prescribed devotional activities mechanically. We can only just try and be obedient. And the second misconception is, if and when we earn enough points, then we'll be benedicted from another source, from Krishna or Srila Prabhupada, with the ability to love our spiritual master and Krishna. These are two conclusions that are completely against everything the science of Krishna consciousness. That if we don't have the ability to love, then we have to be robots, and if we get enough points by obeying, then one day we'll be blessed with the ability to feel love. But if you go to chapter 12 in the nectar of in the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada writes that in the process of surrender, number 4, chapter 12, point number 4 in the process of surrender, to inquire. What is this love of Krishna? That's inquire. To inquire and learn love from the spiritual master, unquote. Word for word. To inquire and learn love. So we have to have a very, if you associate with drunkards, you become a drunkard. If you associate, so this association has to be very intimate. And we have the ability to do it. And it's our choice. So we can be in the 1 second group, or we can be in the million births group.
Can imagine.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
All right, so we have about 8 minutes left on our timer. We have Robert Prabhu from Fresno, and our devotee friend Robert Barron.
Yeah, Robert. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. So, if anyone has any questions or regarding what Ishan Prabhu is saying, they can ask. I'd like to go back to that email you sent me and just read it over so people can have an understanding of my question and your answer. Just quickly.
Sure.
Let's see. What is that? See if I can share my screen here. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Hare Krishna.
Because this was very nice, the way you wrote it and you thought about it. And here we go. This is it. Should I read, Prabhu? Or
whatever you feel to do.
So this was a discussion with Ishan Prabhu here. And this was about 2 weeks ago. I asked a question and Ishan Prabhu replied very nicely. So I'd like to read it for the devotees who are watching online. Hare Krishna Ram Prabhu obeisances Prabhupada. Prabhu, towards the end of the last class, you asked about the understanding that the essence of the path of spiritual life, going back home, is an intimate association with the pure devotee. Yes, Srila Prabhupada has given us a process, rules and regulations, devotional activities, but the feeling of bhakti itself is almost impaired. What's that word?
Imperceptibly?
Imperceptibly work its way into our hearts. And what does that word actually mean, Prabhu?
It means that we can't understand exactly how it's working, but we know it's going on. It's imperceptible.
Okay. Right. Srila Prabhupada sometimes refers to the process as a kind of infectious transfer. Yes, you quote that verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, infectious disease. Yes.
Yeah.
In the good sense. And sometimes an apprenticeship program in which the subtle mood of the master is imbibed by the student. You were wondering at the end of the class if this understanding was present among the devotees at the onset of the movement, and if or when the understanding was lost, so that we begin to think of the process as a point system in which we purchased our ticket for going back home by getting a good score in terms of obedience, book distribution, temples opened, things of that nature. The fact is The fact is that this understanding was never among the devotees in general. It was always taught in our classes, given by devotees, temple presidents, big distributors as a point system. It is not because Srila Prabhupada taught in that way. It is true that sometimes we should say things like, if we are chanting our 16 rounds and following the principles, we could go back to home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. But it is my conviction that Srila Prabhupada was simply trying to encourage us, as we are the most neophyte Prakrit of Bhaktas. Because at other times Srila Prabhupada would say very directly that if at the time of leaving our bodies we have a slightest pinch of material desire, we would return to this material world. In other words, only a pure devotee can go to Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka. There is no other way to get there. Therefore, this can take lifetimes or stepwise progress. But at least we are on our way. Any sober person can understand that life in the material world is a kind of hell. So many diseases, wars, natural disasters, accidents, danger at every step. All doors have to be locked, scams on the phones and computers, exploitation of the masses by governments, revolutions, assassinations of leaders. Let us consider the circumstances. A pure devotee and acharya is not going to sit on a Vyasa-san and say, I am a pure devotee. I have ecstatic love of Krishna in my heart. If you want to cultivate or reawaken your dormant love of Krishna, you have to worship me with aspiration of imbibing from me the taste of pure love of God that is in my heart. He will never speak like this. A pure devotee doesn't present himself in this way. He will say with sincerity that he is just trying to please his spiritual master, serve his spiritual master. It seems that each of us saw Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada according to the condition or quality of our heart. Let me move this out of the way. The so-called biggest leaders in the movement obviously thought they could take Srila Prabhupada's seat on the Vyasa-san and moved to do so even before Srila Prabhupada's actual departure, having meetings and dividing the world into zones with this in mind. They were the leaders in the movement, the GBC, the presidents and the sannyasis, and they were the teachers of the rest of us. Obviously, they did not understand Srila Prabhupada's position as an emissary from the spiritual world. Obviously, they didn't understand that the only way to develop pure love of Krishna was by the process of intimate association with the pure devotee. Otherwise, how could they think for a moment like they should be gurus? Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said repeatedly, read my books, read my books, read my books. Because in spite of the fact that he would never say, I am a pure devotee and there is no way to enter the spiritual world except by learning from me how to feel love for Krishna. This understanding is there in our daily prayers and in our books in so many various ways of description. From him, Krishna Prema emanates. Pure devotion is infectious in a good sense, like an infectious disease. Infection of the devotional qualities of the pure devotee means to imbibe the taste in association of the pure devotee, the taste that makes all material taste distasteful, etc., etc. As an acharya, as our teacher, Srila Prabhupada is duty-bound to write in this way, because this is the process. But he will never say, you have to worship me and learn the quality of pure devotion. But you have to worship me and learn the quality of pure devotion in an intimate relationship with me. Srila Prabhupada would never say that. It would take a great deal of time, energy, and money to organize a sociological study in which the consensus of conviction regarding the way in which we become elevated to devotional platform can be apparent. But the fact is but the fact is that the way in which I'm speaking in these classes, I have never once in my years of living with devotees attending daily classes heard understandings presented by devotees. So, what does this mean about me as a student? Somehow or other, these things have been shown to me. Somehow, I have been able to connect the dots by identifying these statements. Okay, Prabhu, we got cut off again. So let me continue
That's
that last.
okay. Sure.
The last, and I'll splice it together this time. Let's see here. Where is that? Uh,
Last paragraph.
where's that?
I'm going to send you a check. 150 will do it.
Yeah, 150 will do it.
Oh, I'll talk to him on the phone after.
Yes, Prabhu, 1 second. Where did it go?
Sure.
I gotta find it.
Yeah.
You can share the screen. Okay. Okay, I'm back here. Where was I?
Yeah.
Let me start here. It would take a great deal of time and energy and money to organize a sociological study in which the consensus of conviction regarding the way in which we become elevated to devotional platform can be apparent. But the fact is that the ways in which I'm speaking in these classes, I have never once in my years of living with devotees and attending daily classes have heard understandings presented by devotees. What does this mean about me? As a student, somehow or other, these things have been shown to me. Somehow I have been able to connect these dots by identifying these statements in the books and the lectures given by Srila Prabhupada. I'm I am endlessly distracted, fruitive in my activities, and mechanical in my practice of Krishna consciousness. But my hope is that by continuing to speak in these classes, one shall be able to be fixed up in this way. Your servant Ishan Das. Okay, this is a beautiful explanation, and that question that I asked, so that you've explained here. But I mean, some another question would arise just by reading this, which would be that Prabhupada gathered all these young devotees. They must have some sort of feelings towards Srila Prabhupada in.
Yeah. But, people have those same feelings toward Donald Trump.
Hmm,
People have those same feelings
right.
towards Elvis Presley.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada has very opulently charismatic beyond all of them, of course. But people are followers and they're attracted to people who have these beautiful qualities, these
Hmm.
opulences. They're like a magnet, like a
Acha.
magnet.
Hmm.
But instead of being following these political cheaters, we should be one with more intelligence. Krishna gives us one. Krishna within the heart, Srila Prabhupada explains, gives us the ability, because thousands and thousands of people saw Srila Prabhupada,
Yes.
but they didn't become his disciples. I've sat in the room hearing people from newspapers and magazines doing interviews with Srila Prabhupada, and they were, well, how come you're driving in such a nice car? And Srila Prabhupada says, or why you're only sitting in the temple room, you're sitting on such a big seat, but now you're only sitting on a pillow. So you know what Srila Prabhupada said to them? He said, well, while I'm here with you, I'm sitting on a little cushion because I know you're envious of me. So, but those who have some inclination to approach the absolute truth, because they're responding to the therapy. We're all in therapy. We're having so much pain and disappointment and frustration in the material world. It's to break down our false pride. That's the whole business. There's a material world is an insane asylum for disoriented spiritual souls. So, so those who are starting to bend a little, Krishna gives us the ability to be attracted to his pure devotee representative. And then he tells us the same thing over and over and over and over. And each of us is an individual, and how much we're ready, that's how much we can catch from him. That's my understanding of
Right.
it. So yes, they were attracted to Srila Prabhupada, and yes, they were willing to accept that I'm not this body, I'm spirit, but Prabhu, even when I was making these drums in the factory, and I moved into the drum factory, and I had an apartment for my wife and child, and she got pregnant by another devotee. So, I mean, we're all so neophyte, and there's something inside us that really wants,
Mm.
but there's something inside us that really wants in both directions, and it's a personal choice. It's a choice of the soul. And the more the desire to approach Krishna increases, the more we're able to understand what Srila Prabhupada is saying
Right.
and to apply it in our heart. And that's all we can conclude. It's not a secret. It's not being withheld from anybody. Srila Prabhupada's only waiting for us to approach him with an open heart. When Srila Prabhupada, if you look in Bhagavad Gita 434, the last statement in 434 is that when the disciple is submissive, meaning, what is this love? I want to feel you. Let
Right.
me feel you. Let me know you. When the disciple is always submissive and ready to render service, that he's going to apply this feeling in his life, the reciprocation between knowledge and inquiry becomes perfect.
Right.
In other words, when we open our heart to Srila Prabhupada, and we'll be able to learn from him what is love of Krishna and apply it in our practice, in our cultivation of Krishna consciousness. It's just waiting for us to approach him, as opposed to doing the million births process, like a robot. So this ability to understand this it's a function of how much we want Krishna.
Mm.
There's no other way to understand it. But of course, people will hear what we're talking about today and they'll say nonsense. Or they'll
Right.
say, never heard it quite this way. I should consider it. And you follow
Yes.
what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
But Krishna is the one who, in our heart, who gives us the ability to hear or whatever. Because Srila Prabhupada's talking to the whole world, to
Yes.
the whole universe. But only a few can hear a little bit and like that.
Right.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So let me stop the recording here. Ishan Prabhu, thank you very much. And